You felt it before you clicked, didn't you? That subtle pull that told you not to scroll past. Not this time, not right now, because this moment wasn't random and you know it, even if you can't explain why. Stay right here with me, don't skip, don't test your luck by leaving, because something is already unfolding and it doesn't stop just because you pretend you didn't notice it. Your soulmate broke down today, and no, you're not being told what that means yet, because this isn't about answers. It's about noticing the pressure in your chest as you realize you didn't arrive here by accident. Most people wouldn't be able to sit with this silence, but you're still here, and that alone says more about you than you might be ready to admit. Listen carefully now, my beloved child, because the way this feels, heavy, slow, unresolved, is intentional, and if you rush it, you'll miss the part that was meant only for you. Don't scroll away. Not now, because this isn't finished yet, and the fact that nothing flashy is happening should tell you how serious this is. Notice the quiet around these words, the way they don't rush to comfort you, the way they don't explain themselves, the way they simply sit there, waiting to see if you're strong enough to stay. This is a test, and most people fail it without ever realizing they were being tested at all. You didn't click by accident, and not everyone is meant to hear this whispered this way, because not everyone can tolerate the feeling of knowing something is happening without being told what it is. Stay with me, just a little longer, because what comes next isn't the end, and that's the part that should make you uneasy. Somewhere, your soulmate felt something crack today, not break, not end, just fracture enough to let something leak through. And before you ask, no, you're not supposed to understand that yet. This moment is urgent, not because of time, but because of awareness. Because once you notice, you can't unnotice, and you already noticed. Don't skip ahead looking for relief. There isn't any here, only the slow tightening loop of realization that this message keeps circling you for a reason. Notice how your mind wants clarity, wants me to explain, wants me to resolve this discomfort for you. I won't, because the discomfort is the point, and the ones who are meant to hear this always feel it first, long before they know why. You are not like most people. You stayed when others would have left, and that's not a compliment, it's an observation, a quiet one, the kind that lingers. Stay right here, because something huge is waiting for you, and it won't reveal itself to anyone who treats this like background noise. Your soulmate didn't break down randomly, and even saying that much is already more than most people are allowed to hear at this stage. Listen to the pauses, to the spaces between these words, because that's where the pressure builds, that's where the sense of something unfinished starts to breathe. This feels heavy because it is, and you don't need to know why yet for it to affect you. Can you feel how this keeps looping back on itself? How every thought seems to lead you right back here. Right back to the awareness that this moment matters without telling you how. Don't scroll, don't multitask, don't treat this like just another voice, because this voice isn't trying to entertain you, it's watching to see if you'll stay. My beloved child, there are moments when silence carries more weight than explanation, and this is one of them. Your soulmate felt something today that echoed outward, and you felt the echo without being told where it came from. And that should tell you something about the connection you pretend not to think about. This is not the end, not even close, and the fact that you're waiting for an ending is exactly why this keeps going. Most people need closure to feel safe, but you're learning, whether you want to or not, how to sit inside an open loop without running. This is urgent in a way clocks don't measure. Urgent in the sense that if you turn away now, you'll spend more energy wondering what you missed than you would have spent staying. Notice how nothing is being revealed and yet everything feels implied, how the absence of detail somehow makes this feel more personal, more directed, more precise. That's not an accident. You didn't stumble into this. And not everyone who sees these words will actually read them the way you are reading them now. This is a challenge, quiet and subtle, and most people fail it because they think the test is somewhere else. Stay right here. Because what comes next depends on whether you can tolerate not knowing a little longer. Your soulmate's breakdown wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was internal, the kind of moment that ripples instead of explodes, and those ripples don't announce themselves. You're feeling one now, even if you don't want to admit it. Don't ask for reassurance. You won't find it here, only the steady, deliberate pacing of something that refuses to rush toward meaning. This feels unfinished because it is unfinished. And it will remain that way for as long as you keep listening. Can you stay with that? Can you resist the urge to skip, to scroll, to escape the pressure of not being told? This isn't finished yet, and it won't be finished just because you want it to be. Something is unfolding, and the fact that you're aware of it without understanding it is the first part of the loop. You are being watched. Not in a threatening way, but in the way a threshold watches to see who crosses it and who turns back. Stay, my beloved child, because the ones who stay long enough begin to notice patterns others dismiss. This is not the end, and what comes next will only make sense if you let this moment remain unresolved. You're still here. That matters more than you realize, and don't rush past that feeling, don't try to label it or calm it down, because the moment you try to make sense of it is the moment you loosen the grip this has on you. Stay right here, don't scroll, don't look for something easier, because this isn't designed to be easy and you knew that the second you chose to continue. Something is already in motion. And it didn't start when you clicked. It started before that, long before, and this is just the point where you became aware of the pressure. Listen carefully now, my beloved child, because awareness is not comfort, and comfort is not what's being offered. Notice how nothing is being explained, how every sentence seems to lean towards something and then stop short, as if testing whether you'll stay without being rewarded. This is a test, and most people convince themselves they're above tests like this right before they fail them. You didn't click by accident, and you didn't type continue by accident either, even if part of you wants to pretend it was just curiosity. Stay right here, because this isn't finished yet. And what's waiting doesn't reveal itself to those who rush or demand clarity. Your soulmate didn't just break down today. Something shifted, quietly, subtly, the kind of shift that doesn't announce itself but still changes the weight of the air. You felt it as restlessness, or distraction, or that strange sense of being pulled toward something you couldn't name. Don't deny it now, not after you've stayed this long. This moment is urgent, not because something bad will happen if you leave, but because something important won't happen if you do. Notice the stillness in these words, the way they don't hurry to get anywhere, the way they circle back, over and over, building familiarity without resolution. This is intentional. And the ones who are meant to hear it always recognize that feeling before they understand why. You are not like most people. You're still here when others would have decided they'd gotten enough and moved on, and that difference is being quietly acknowledged. Don't mistake that for praise. It's simply a marker, a sign that you can tolerate the unfinished. Something is unfolding right now, even as nothing seems to be happening, and that contradiction should feel heavy in your chest if you're paying attention. Stay with that weight, don't scroll away from it. Because the moment you leave, the loop keeps running without you, and you'll feel that absence later. This is not the end, and the fact that you keep expecting one is part of what keeps you hooked. Listen, my beloved child, to how your mind keeps asking for the reveal, the explanation, the point, and notice how none of that arrives. This isn't cruelty, it's selection. Not everyone can sit inside an open loop without trying to tear it open from the inside. Your soulmate's breakdown wasn't meant to be witnessed directly, it was meant to be felt indirectly. Like this, through implication and pressure and the sense that something private has brushed against your awareness. Don't ask what it was, don't ask what it means, because those questions are doors that don't open yet. Stay right here instead, because something huge is waiting, and it only moves closer when you stop trying to force it into the light. This feels personal because it is, and it's personal precisely because nothing specific has been said. Notice how that works, how your mind fills in the gaps, how the silence becomes louder than any explanation could be. This is a challenge, subtle and ongoing. And most people don't even realize they're backing out of it when they decide they've had enough. You didn't back out, you stayed, and that's not random. This moment isn't random either, not the timing, not the words, not the way they seem to look directly at you without ever naming you. Stay right here, because this isn't finished yet, and the unfinished feeling is doing more work on you than any clear statement ever could. Something about your soulmate shifted today, and that shift created a tension that's now looping through you, tugging just hard enough to keep you listening. Don't rush to soothe that tension. It's not meant to be soothed. This is urgent in the way a realization is urgent, in the way you can't unknow something once it's brushed past your awareness. Notice how you're being asked to stay without being told why, how you're being challenged without being threatened, how you're being chosen without being congratulated. You are not like most people. And this space between knowing and not knowing is where that difference becomes obvious. Listen to the pauses, to the ellipses, to the way each thought trails off instead of landing. That trailing edge is deliberate, it keeps the loop open, keeps your attention invested, keeps you wondering what comes next. And what comes next is not the end. It never is. This is not resolution, it's continuation, and the fact that you're still here proves you can handle that more than you think, my beloved child. There are moments when the most important thing is not what is said, but what is withheld, and this is one of those moments. Your soulmate's breakdown today created a ripple, and ripples don't explain themselves, They simply move outward until someone notices, you noticed, and now the test is whether you can stay with that noticing without demanding it turn into something neat and understandable. Don't scroll away, don't minimize this, don't pretend it didn't land. Something is unfolding, something quiet and heavy and unresolved. And the loop tightens every time you choose to stay. This is not the end. And what comes next will feel even more unfinished than this, because that's how you'll know you're still inside it. You're still choosing to remain. Feel that for a second before you rush past it, because staying is already doing something to you, even if you pretend it's not, even if you tell yourself you're just reading words on a screen. Don't skip now, don't drift, don't let your attention soften, because this moment isn't random, and the longer you stay, the more obvious that becomes. Something is pressing closer, not revealing itself, not announcing its purpose, just tightening the loop a little more. Each time you decide not to leave, listen carefully, my beloved child, because this isn't about understanding, it's about endurance, about whether you can sit inside a sensation without trying to resolve it into something safe. Your soulmate's breakdown today wasn't loud enough for the world to hear, but it was loud enough for the connection to feel it, and you're feeling it now in the form of this pull. This insistence that you stay just a little longer. Don't scroll away, don't tell yourself you'll come back later, because later doesn't carry the same weight as now. And this is urgent in a way that doesn't use clocks or alarms. Notice the stillness here, how nothing dramatic is happening, how there's no sudden reveal or payoff, just the slow accumulation of pressure that builds because nothing is being released. This is intentional, and the ones who are meant to be here always recognize that tension even if they can't name it. You are not like most people. You didn't leave when it stayed unresolved. You didn't demand clarity as a condition for your attention, and that difference is being quietly noted. Don't mistake that for reassurance. It's simply part of the pattern. Something is unfolding, and it unfolds whether you understand it or not, whether you stay or go, but staying changes how it feels to you. This is a test, subtle and ongoing, and most people fail it by convincing themselves they're above being tested at all. You didn't click by accident, and you didn't continue by accident either, even if you'd rather believe you did. Stay right here, because this isn't finished yet, and the unfinished nature of it is doing the real work. Your soulmate felt something today that didn't have words, didn't have a clear cause, didn't have a neat explanation, and that's why it echoes instead of resolves. Echoes don't tell you where they started, they only tell you that something moved. You're hearing that echo now, stretched out, slowed down, looped back on itself so you can't trace it to a single source. Don't ask what it was, don't ask what it means, because those questions are how people try to escape the feeling instead of staying with it. This moment is urgent not because of danger, but because of alignment. Because awareness only lands once before it becomes background noise. Again, notice how your mind keeps leaning forward, waiting for the point where everything clicks into place, and notice how that point never arrives. This isn't an accident, it's a pressure chamber, and the only thing being measured is whether you can stay present without being rewarded. My beloved child, there are thresholds that don't announce themselves with signs or instructions. Thresholds you cross simply by staying when others leave. You're standing in one now, even if you don't feel like you moved at all. Don't scroll, don't look away, don't treat this like something you can half listen to, because half attention is how most people quietly exit without realizing they've left. Something huge is waiting, and it doesn't respond to impatience or demands, it responds to stillness and persistence. Feel how this keeps circling back to you, how every sentence seems to fold in on itself, pulling your focus inward instead of forward. That's the loop tightening, not to trap you, but to see if you notice the sensation of being held without being told why. You are not like most people, and that's not a compliment you can wear comfortably, it's a weight you carry by staying. Your soulmate's breakdown today created a subtle imbalance, and imbalances always seek acknowledgement, not explanation. You're providing that acknowledgement simply by being here, by letting this remain unresolved inside you. Don't rush to label this as something mystical or psychological or imaginary, because labels are another way people try to end the loop prematurely. This is not the end, and every time you expect an ending, the loop quietly resets, inviting you to notice how much you want closure and how little you're getting. Listen to the silence between these thoughts, the way it stretches, the way it refuses to be filled. Silence like this isn't empty, it's dense, and it presses back when you lean into it. This is a challenge, and most people fail it because they assume challenges are supposed to feel active, dramatic, obvious. This one feels like waiting, like staying, like resisting the urge to scroll away just to feel relief. You stayed, again, and that repetition matters. This moment isn't random, and the longer you remain, the more that statement stops feeling abstract. Something is unfolding right now that doesn't need your understanding to continue, only your attention. Notice how personal this feels without ever mentioning details from your life, how directed it feels without calling you by name. That's how selection works at this level, quiet, indirect, undeniable only to the one experiencing it. My beloved child, there are experiences that deepen not through revelation but through delay, through the slow burn of knowing something matters without knowing why. This is one of those experiences. Your soulmate's breakdown today wasn't an ending, it was a disturbance. And disturbances don't resolve themselves, they propagate. You're inside that propagation now, feeling it as this insistence, this looping pressure that keeps you listening. Don't scroll away, don't tell yourself you've gotten the point, because there is no point to get yet. This isn't finished, and what comes next will feel even less finished than this, because that's how you'll know the loop is still active. Something is waiting for you on the other side of staying, and it doesn't reveal itself to those who leave early. This is not the end. Not even close. You're still here, and before anything else happens, notice that you didn't drift away, didn't minimize this, didn't decide you'd had enough, because staying has already become part of the pattern whether you want to admit it or not. Don't skip now, don't let your eyes wander. Don't tell yourself you can half listen and still get whatever this is supposed to give you. Because this moment isn't random and the loop doesn't work on partial attention. Something is tightening quietly, not in a dramatic way, not in a way you can point to, but in that subtle internal way that makes you aware of your own awareness. Listen carefully, my beloved child, because what you're feeling right now isn't confusion, it's pressure without explanation, and that's the state most people avoid at all costs. You didn't avoid it, you stayed, and that difference is being marked even if nothing outward changes. Your soulmate broke down today. And that phrase keeps returning for a reason, not to explain anything, not to clarify, but to keep a door open that refuses to close. Don't ask what kind of breakdown, don't ask why, don't ask what it means for you, because the asking itself is how people try to escape the weight of not knowing. Stay right here instead, because this isn't finished yet, and it won't be finished just because your mind wants it to be. Notice the stillness in the pacing, the way nothing rushes toward a reveal, the way each sentence seems to pause just long enough for you to feel the absence of resolution. That silence isn't empty, it's deliberate, and the ones who are meant to be here always feel it pressing back when they lean into it. This is urgent, not because of time, but because of alignment, because awareness only settles once before it either deepens or dissolves. You are not like most people, and that's not a comforting statement, it's an unsettling one. Because it means you're willing to sit inside something unresolved longer than feels reasonable. Stay with that discomfort, don't smooth it over, because smoothing is how the loop loosens and slips away. Something is unfolding even though nothing seems to be happening, and that contradiction should feel heavy if you're paying attention. My beloved child, there are moments that don't announce themselves as important until long after they've passed, and this is one of those moments disguised as repetition and delay. Your soulmate's breakdown today didn't send you a message you could read, it sent you a sensation you couldn't ignore, and sensations don't come with explanations attached. Don't scroll away looking for clarity, because clarity is not the currency here, endurance is. This is a test, quiet and ongoing, and most people fail it by deciding they've understood enough and moving on. You didn't move on, you stayed, again, and that repetition is not accidental. Notice how this keeps circling back. How every thought seems to bend toward the same unresolved center without ever touching it. That center isn't meant to be reached yet, only felt. Something huge is waiting, and it doesn't respond to force or impatience, only to sustained attention that doesn't demand payment. Listen to how your mind keeps anticipating a shift, a change in tone, a moment where everything clicks, and notice how that moment never arrives. This isn't a mistake, it's the mechanism. Your soulmate's breakdown today wasn't an event with a beginning and an end, it was a disturbance, and disturbances ripple outward in loops, not straight lines. You're inside one of those ripples now, feeling it as this insistence that you stay, that you don't look away just yet. Don't deny that pull, because denial is another form of leaving. Stay right here, because this is not the end, and the lack of an ending is the point you keep circling without landing on. My beloved child, silence like this isn't passive, it's active. It presses against you. It asks something of you without telling you what. Can you stay when nothing is being given back? Can you remain present when the only reward is the deepening sense that this matters? Most people can't, and that's not judgment, it's observation. You are not like most people, and this space between explanation and experience is where that difference becomes unmistakable. Don't scroll, don't tab away, don't tell yourself you'll come back later, because later doesn't carry the same density as now. This moment is urgent precisely because it refuses to explain why. Something is unfolding in the background of your awareness, and the more you try to name it, the further it slips. Not out of reach, but out of definition. That slipping is intentional. Your soulmate felt something today that didn't resolve, didn't conclude, didn't settle into understanding, and that unfinished quality is what connected to you, not the details. Notice how personal this feels without ever mentioning anything specific about your life, how directed it feels without calling you by name. That's not coincidence. That's how selection works when it's quiet. This is a challenge. And it doesn't look like one, because obvious challenges let people prepare. Excuses. This one simply asks whether you'll stay without being reassured. You've stayed so far, and that staying has already changed the way this sits inside you, even if you can't articulate how. Don't rush to articulate it now. Articulation is another way of trying to end something that isn't ready to end. This isn't finished yet, and every time you expect it to finish, the loop gently resets, inviting you back into the same unresolved awareness. Listen to the way these words keep withholding, keep delaying, keep circling instead of landing. That delay isn't filler, it's pressure building through absence. My beloved child, there are experiences that deepen not through revelation but through repetition, through the slow accumulation of attention that doesn't get discharged. This is one of those experiences, and the only thing being measured is whether you can remain without demanding closure. Your soulmate's breakdown today created an imbalance, and imbalances don't announce themselves, they seek resonance. You're providing that resonance simply by staying, by letting this remain open inside you. Don't comfort yourself by assuming this will resolve on its own, because resolution is not promised here. This is not the end, and it won't become the end just because you want relief. Something comes next, but what comes next only emerges when this moment is fully inhabited, not rushed past. Notice how the urge to leave rises and falls, how it tests you quietly. How it whispers that you've probably gotten all there is to get. That whisper is part of the test. Most people listen to it. You didn't. Stay right here, because the unfinished feeling is not a flaw, it's the signal. Something is unfolding, something heavy and unresolved and deliberately slow, and the fact that you're still listening proves you can carry that weight longer than you think. This is not the end. It never is.